So this series, Unstuck, that we've been in, here's the reality. This is week 7. And there are some of you who are like, dear God, thank you, it's over. Let's move on. Okay, which happens every series. That's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion even when it's wrong. But no, it's fine. But here's the thing. There's others of you who are like, I wish we could just could this be like a 52-week series? Or can we, and here's the thing. What we really want to do is we want to help each other live unstuck. We want to help each other live healing and freeing lives and experience all of that with Jesus. And so while it's just a series, it won't take you being around Journey very long to understand this is the way we want to live. This is the way that we try and live. It's part of life with Jesus is to live unstuck, because there are times we get stuck in life where we don't feel like we can get any forward momentum. Like we find ourselves running in the same cycle all the time, and there are some things that maybe we wish they would change, but they're not changing. There are some patterns or habits we wish we could break, but they're not breaking. Or sometimes we just get stuck in such a deep sadness that we start to feel a little immobilized in life. And we even understand why the sadness came. And it's completely understandable. But we never really wanted to get stuck in it. We want to find some way of healing and get out. And some of us, we get stuck in cycles because we've experienced undeniable real trauma. Life circumstances or at the hands or words of people, and we get stuck, and we want the freedom to acknowledge that pain, but we also, at the same time, we're saying, but I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live fully stuck in this. I want to have movement again. I don't want to deny what's happened, but I want to move. I don't want to live like the person who gets stuck in the ditch in the snowstorm, who is just constantly spinning their wheels, but it's not actually going anywhere, right? We're just digging the rut deeper. We were in Colorado recently, and we were going up kind of this side of this mountain. We were actually going up about 3,000 feet from where we started up, and one of my friends is driving, and it's just back and forth. It's super slow. Roads are covered in snow and little bits of ice or whatever, and we come across somebody who is actually stuck on the side of the road, which there's just not much side of the road when you're on a mountain, right? I mean, there isn't like side of the road, and he's just like this far from the guardrail, almost at the guardrail, right? And so it's this nerve-wracking moment, and we stop, and then another car comes, and this little work van comes, and they stop, and you can feel the tension of, I want to get out of here, but if I get out of here in the wrong direction, that's going to be a whole different problem, right? And so the work van had a chain, hook up a chain, somebody pulls him out, gets him back on the road the right way. And man, that's how stuck can feel so perilous. Like, you just get there, and you might even have tried to be careful in life. You might even be doing what you think are the right things, but you can find ourselves stuck in this pattern of I want out. I want some vibrancy back to my life. I want some forward movement back to my life. I want traction in my relationships. I want forward movement in my healing, in my recovery, in my dreams. And so the last few weeks, we've just been saying, how do we live that? How do we get out of that? And we started with this thing, and this is huge to understand. We started from the very, very base level of saying, look, part of how what we need to do to get unstuck is understand that relationship with Jesus is lived by trusting him, not trying to please him. We trust him in his goodness, his character, and his conduct. We're not trying to please him, or we're not trying to keep him pleased with us. We're living trusting him, and by default, all the rest will happen. We live trusting his goodness, his kindness towards us. And then we talked about maybe you just got to pull the mask down. You've got to somewhere risk vulnerability, and it's really hard because all of us at some point or another have been hurt by other human beings, right? Because all of us who are imperfect human beings, which is all of us, that's what sometimes we hurt each other, even unintentionally. But we pull the mask down, because when we pull the mask down and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, that's actually the first time we give ourselves a chance to be loved. Is there a risk of being hurt? There absolutely is. But is there the reward of potentially actually being loved? Yes. As long as you leave the mask up, as long as you leave up a facade, trying to convince people of who you are, trying to be who you think everybody else wants you to be, then the only thing those people can love is your mask. The only thing they can love is the you're trying to convey. So let's take that mask down. And when we do, then we also begin to understand that God's given us everything we need. He's given us his spirit and his community to get unstuck. to kind of get us moving again. And then we begin to understand that he's on the same side of the issue as us. He's not on the other side, arms crossed, trying to wait for us to figure it out and disappointed and all, looking away from us, shaking his finger at us. He's actually with us in our stuckness, trying to say, let's work through this together. I want to help you through your sin. I want to help you through your disappointment. I want to help you through your loss. I want to help you through your grief. I want to, whatever it is, right? I want to help you through your confusion about the future and which option you should pick and how to navigate. I want to help you through your marital tension. I want to help you through your financial. I want to help you. And then when we see that he's with us, he helps us understand the pattern in which the enemy comes after us, where he tries to tempt us to maybe to sin or maybe just to navigate a problem not right without wisdom, and we get tempted, then we start resisting God's way, and then we start managing the consequences of when we do this. What are we going to do with the fallout? And then we do the only thing left, we start blaming other people for it. And then we're left with shame or settling. We just I get embarrassed about it, or we just settle and say, this is my lot in life. And then that gets us to the point when we say, I can see the pattern, what the enemy's pushing against me. That invites us into this first really huge step of just saying, you know what? In order to get unstuck, I'm going to be a person who chooses to forgive. Just the way that Jesus chose to forgive me, I'm going to choose to forgive other people, other organizations, other groups, other institutions. I'm going to even choose to forgive myself. I choose to forgive. But here's the challenge that's left on the table for us. We can talk about all these things about being unstuck, and we can even make these moves, and there's one great risk still on the table. And the great risk is that we can take all of these steps, and we can begin to feel better, which is great and is part of the Lord's desire. That's part of God's goodness to us. We can start to experience some newness in the things around us, which is also good and part of his desire for you. We can start to experience those and feel like, okay, that means I'm unstuck, but we can still be living with some very significant residue of stuckness. We can actually still be living partially stuck and not even know it. We can live feeling better and with some things around us better, but not fully living and yet convinced we are. And some of that is we've misunderstood God's goal of getting us unstuck. We've thought God's goal was to help us feel better and change some things around us. And that is absolutely part of his goal. Absolutely, without question. Because he's good. He loves us. He has good things for us. But there's another part that we often miss. And when we miss this part, it leaves us a little stuck. See, here's the thing. When we get stuck, we become consumed by what we're in and the pain or the confusion or the whirlwind we're living in or the grief we're carrying or the sin that we're caught in. One of the things that gradually drains out of our life, almost like somebody reached into the bottom of the barrel or the cooler and just pulled the little valve, the little stop, and it just started to leak out of the bottom of our life gradually, so slowly that we don't even notice it at first. One of the things that just leaks out of our life when we find ourselves stuck is our sense of significance. Our sense and our belief that our life still counts. One of the things that happens is inside of being stuck and caught in the whirlwind or caught in the pattern we want to get out of, is we start to subtly give way to the thought that if I'm here, if this has happened to me, or if I've done this, my life, maybe I really am not significant. Maybe my life doesn't really count. And then we get glad that we start to feel better and that things around us start to seem better. We get really glad about that, as we should. We should give all this credit to God and all this celebration of him. But then we stop there and we think, okay, I'm really grateful for that, and that was kind of God. But he can't actually make me significant again. He can't actually make my life count again. Listen to me. If you've ever had a moment or a period of time where you have wrestled with the thought, I don't count. My life doesn't count. I certainly can't be or do anything significant. Do you see what I've been in? Either by my own doing or by the doings of other people or the world around us. Do you see what I've been in? My life can't count. I'm grateful that things are better, but my life can't count. If you've ever had that thought, you are one of millions and millions and millions of people to think it. Sometimes fleeting, sometimes sporadically, sometimes constantly for decades, so much so that we just get numb to it. We just accept that this must be our lot in life. And it's the danger. It's the danger of getting almost unstuck. It's the risk of getting almost unstuck. And it's part of what this guy Paul, who wrote so much of the New Testament, it's part of what I think he's trying to help people in this letter of Ephesians. In Ephesians chapter 1 and 2, Paul's writing this letter to a group of people. They're trying to follow Jesus, and it's in a really broken, corrupt system in society at the time. And I mean, they make ours look really good on some levels, and it's really broken. And Paul's writing to them, and he's trying to remind them right off the bat, hey, this is who you are. You were chosen by God way before you chose him. God chose you. When nobody else wanted you, God picked you up off the dump heap, which is literally the analogy he uses and literally what was happening in first century Ephesus. And so he says, yeah, I picked you up off the dump heap. I've established your worth by giving my son for you. I've given you, you have a spirit of wisdom and revelation so you can understand your life in the times. I've given you that. Like, that's who you are. You have the same power in you that raised Jesus from the dead. I've given you that. That's true about your life as a follower of Jesus. I've given you this inheritance of heaven, like you actually get to live out heaven on the earth right now. Paul even goes so far as to say, when you accepted Jesus, when you surrendered your life to him, you were actually raised up with him. So you have a heavenly experience while you're still walking around on this earth. You actually could see with a heavenly perspective while you're walking around this earth that there's no limit to God's goodness, and his salvation is so complete. And so he's reminding them, this is who you are, this is who you are, this is who you are. He's trying to help them get out of stuckness or avoid stuckness. By the time you get to chapter 2, he's going even further with that. And then there's this fascinating dynamic, which Paul keeps pushing the conversation. He doesn't stop with, I want you to know all these things are true so you can feel better about yourself and the circumstances around you can change, which is absolutely part of the equation. Like, I'm not trying to minimize it. But then he goes further and he actually starts trying to help them see, hey, part of the reason you're rescued, part of the completion of your rescue, part of the completion of you getting unstuck is that you've got some really good things to offer. You have some remarkable things that only you can offer. You have some remarkable things that only you can do to contribute to the movement of Jesus in people's lives. He says it this way, Ephesians 2:10. He says, you individually and you as the whole of you, you are actually created as God's handiwork. You're a masterpiece. God sculpted you and you're a masterpiece. And God created you as a masterpiece so that you could do good things that God had already created for you to do, which means this, just track with me on this a little bit, which means this, that God made really good, meaningful, significant things that count. He made those. He saw those, and then he perfectly made you to perfectly do them. You were created with great attention to detail for the thing that God created you to do, which also means this: God never created anybody and then stood around for a year or so with a big question mark over his head in heaven, right? God never made anybody and thought, oh my gosh, we've blown it. Every single person God made, including you, including me, and including us collectively, he made with good things already set to do. He already had a calling for you. He already had a good purpose for your life. He already had something for you to do. See, we all have this common purpose. The common purpose, you and I share it together, right? It's to be with God, to be like God, help other people be with God and like God. It's to be with God, to be like God, help other people be with God and like God. But then we have this unique calling. You have a unique set of skills and abilities meshed together with your personality and your story and your experiences, meshed together with your perspective, meshed together with your voice and your sphere of influence. And all of that points to what you uniquely are called to do to move the story of Jesus forward in people's lives, to help other people be with him and like him. You have that. And listen, and what you were created to do, nobody else was created to do that thing. And when somebody else has to try and do that thing, it just doesn't go as well as if you do that thing. We're just made to do these good things. And here's the tension. When we get stuck, one of the most gradual losses in our life during that period of stuckness is we lose track of that we were made to be significant. We were made to do good. We were made to live a life that counts, that matters, that makes a difference, that tells the story of Jesus. We lose track of it. We become so consumed, understandably so, with getting out of the stuckness in a way that helps us feel better and things around us be better, that we lose track of the fact that part of what God is trying to get us unstuck for is to fully live this calling. He's trying to heal us, right? He's trying to bring healing to the past so he can unleash the future. He's trying to bring healing to your story so he can unleash the rest of your story. God redeems the whole thing. Listen, God is not trying to simply revive you or restore you from your past. He's trying to restore you to your future. And so Paul's trying to help the Ephesians see that, who are in one of the most worst imaginable cultures and contexts you could possibly imagine. Paul's trying to convince them of that. But this is what he does. It's what Jesus does. Jesus, early in his ministry time on earth, he's calling people to follow him, right? Like he's working on pulling together these 12 disciples. And he's calling them together. And one of them is Peter, probably the most famous of the first 12 disciples. Peter is this unique guy because Peter's a young guy who is attempted most likely to be a student or a disciple of other rabbis. Peter probably went to some specialized school. The odds are pretty good. He knew the first 5 books of your Old Testament of the Bible completely, like had them memorized. The odds are pretty good on that. Like he knew a lot. He had experienced a lot. And he goes to these other rabbis and says, hey, let me follow you, let me follow you, let me follow you. And they all say no. They all say, you're not good enough. Peter doesn't get into a single college he applies for, right? It's not going well for him. So what does he do? He goes back to the family trade, which is fishing, which is a really noble thing. Like we need fishermen. They needed fishermen. That's how these people were going to eat, right? He didn't go back to a bad thing. He went back to a really noble thing. But then along comes Jesus. And in Matthew chapter 4:19, this is what he says. Hey, Peter, why don't you come follow me? You come follow me. And when you follow me, I'm going to help you be with me and like me. And I'm going to make you a fisherman and help other people be with me and like me. Do you see what Jesus does? Jesus knows Peter's overlooked. He knows he's been passed by. He knows he didn't get into a single college he applied for, right? And he says, oh, but look, come on. You still count. Come on. Like, you come with me. I'm going to heal a whole lot of that stuff in you. I'm going to heal a whole lot of that broken. I'm going to take care of a lot of things. I'm going to lead you in a way. And I'm not just going to heal you from your past, but I'm also going to invite you into a really meaningful life. Because that's what Jesus does. So as we talk about being unstuck, part of what we've got to wrestle with is, okay, it's one thing, and it's an important thing, it's the essential thing, it's an absolutely essential thing. How is Jesus going to heal, restore, get me unstuck? How is Jesus going to help me feel better about what's happening and change some of what I'm doing or what's happening around me? But just as important to that, if I really want to be fully unstuck, just as important is, okay, how is Jesus going to help me find, or how is Jesus going to reacquaint me with my calling? How is Jesus going to help me find, or how is he going to reacquaint me with my calling? Look, let's just have a moment of honesty. Some of us are in a period of time coming out of the last couple years where we are as stuck as we have ever been. And part of what we are exploring, part of what we are being compelled to explore is, how is Jesus going to help me find or reconnect me with my calling? So how do we do it? Let me just give you 2 thoughts. They're both super simple. The first one is just explore it. Just explore. What is my unique calling? What unique passion? What unique gifting? What unique skill set? What unique personality traits? What unique life stories? What do I bring to this table? And then just start reading the Bible through the lens of calling. As you read the story of God of the Scriptures, just start reading and look at how God called people. Sometimes it's super dramatic. Sometimes it's things are on fire and there's lights flashing from heaven, and other times it's really gradual and it's the revisiting of somebody's story, and other times it's like through another person. It's through a conversation or through somebody God prompts to go to somebody, help them see their calling. All sorts of different ways. There's no one size fits all to this, which is such a beautiful thing, right? Why? Because he's helping us find our unique calling. So you just explore it. In fact, I want to invite you to just be a part of exploring a little bit. We've never done this before, but on March 26th, which is a Saturday, we're going to take a part of a day, and we're just going to do our first calling lab experience, where we're going to just experiment together. We're going to just ask some questions, and we're going to go through some process about what things do I see, what things trigger my heart, what things am I passionate about, what unique experiences do I have, how does that possibly mesh together? Now, look, it's not a magic wand, perfect formula deal. We're going to work on this together, and then we'll just go try and live it. Then we'll see, and if we need to talk about it more, we'll talk about it more. But I just want to invite you to write that date down. Lots more details coming, but just write the date down now. And in just a very low pressure, even keel, easy environment, let's explore it together a little bit. Because what we'll do after we explore is we're gonna have to take some motion, because the odds are really good that at the end of the day, the way you will find your calling is you will bump into it. You'll just keep doing things and you'll find out, man, I'm really good at that. You'll do some other things you think, I am not good at that. Somebody almost died and I was trying to help people. Okay, so you'll have to, we'll play with it a little bit. We'll explore it, which is very connected to the fact that we just need to experiment. We just need to experiment. Explore some ideas, experiment with some ideas. Explore some ideas, experiment. Let's just try things. Let's see what happens. Again, what do I bump into that I'm good at and seems to actually make an impact? If I truly believe God has tried to rescue my whole life, if I truly believe what Paul wrote is true, inspired by the Spirit, Ephesians 2:10, that God made really good things and then made me to do them, so God's not guessing, God's not wondering, God's not playing some weird game with us. He has good things for us to do as part of living an unstuck, fully free, healing life. I'm just going to experiment. One of the ways you can experiment is just to ask yourself the question. From the youngest of us to the oldest of us, just ask this question. What need do I often seem to notice? What's the need that I actually notice around me? A handful of years ago, probably 3-ish years ago, I started just to notice among one unique slice of the world, I just started to notice pockets to encourage them. For whatever reason, I just started to notice pockets to encourage, and I just wanted to encourage them. I was thinking about it all the time, and I want to encourage all people, but there was just something different about this. And I'd be in a conversation where I'd be listening. I think, man, I just want to encourage him, or I just want to encourage her. And then it started shaping how I prayed for that. I started just everything. It just changed everything for me. I'm like, what's really going on here? And here's what I'm starting to discover. It's simply this. The need you see, it highlights a gift that you have. If you wonder, what am I good at and what do I bring to the table? Just notice what you notice. The need you see highlights a gift that's in you. I just started to see all this one group of people engaged in a certain part of the world and doing certain things in the world. Man, I just want to encourage them. I love what they're doing. I just want to encourage. And all of a sudden I found, oh wait, it actually comes somewhat naturally. I'm getting better, but it comes somewhat naturally to encourage them. The need that you see highlights a gift that you have. You're going to see different needs than people around you. You'll see something different than even the people in your family. What's the need you see? It might be pointing to a gift that you have. Because here's the thing. I don't want you to live. I don't want you to live in the trap that getting unstuck would somehow leave you insignificant and without a difference to be made. The entire healing of Jesus, the entire restoration of Jesus includes getting you out of a pattern, getting you out of a cycle, walking you through a healing, and unleashing you to do the good he created you to do. That's part of what will be fulfilling to you. See, because here's the thing. You are significant because you have a significant calling. But the other side is also true. You have a significant calling because you're significant. You are significant but by default because Jesus gave you something significant to do. But he also gave you something significant to do because he designed you to be significant. In any part of our life that causes us to live thinking we cannot be significant, both in the eyes of God and in the work of God. Any part of life that causes us to live like our life can't count and we can't be part of the good of moving Jesus' kingdom forward, any part of that points us to where we're still stuck. We're still stuck. Because Jesus is just better than, he's more complete in that. At the beginning of our time together today, we talked about revival and how revival can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Part of just the challenge we live in our culture right now is lots of different definitions for the same word. Everybody has their own dictionary, where there's very few words that we all operate out of the same dictionary anymore. And so let's just partially define significance. Okay, so we're on the same, because we have different definitions of significance oftentimes. And a lot of times we think significant people who did something significant, well, that's going to come, right, with all sorts of accolades. And it's going to be really demonstrative. It's going to be really clear. Like, you won't be able to miss it. Right? You wouldn't be able to, like Paul, it must be like Paul. Like, he helped shape an entire culture, right? So that would be, and it was significant. Which is why we might think, guys like this, like Michael Jordan, well, he must be significant, right? And you can debate all day long whether or not you think he's the greatest basketball player to ever live or not. Doesn't matter, right? But what you wouldn't be able to deny is that he changed the way basketball was played. He changed the way athletes market and use marketing and are marketed. He changed the landscape of all of that. Completely changed it. Of course that was significant. Or how about this guy? Some of you who are more musically wired, how about Bob Dylan? Bob Dylan changed the way that songwriting engages culture. One person, he shifted the whole landscape of that and how lyrics influence and interpret the culture in which we live. So much that starts with Bob Dylan. Of course that's significant. Some of you are like, John, those are not very churchy examples, dude. Those, I don't even know, right? Okay, well, let's go a little closer to home, right? How about Oskar Schindler? German businessman, entrepreneur, who just feels compelled and goes to great lengths to save over 1,000 Jews in the Holocaust. Is that significant? Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, right? I don't know what your definition of significance is, but that's got to be, right? How about Harriet Tubman, in our own country, who says, man, no more of this slavery thing, and so she starts the Underground Railroad, right? And leads all of these slaves to freedom at great risk to her own life, at great risk to theirs, constantly putting her own freedom at risk. And tell stories about how along the way she was prompted by the Spirit of God to go in one direction or another to get slaves to freedom. I mean, that has to be significant, right? Has to be. But there's this whole other group of people. You see, there's a guy named Rob that was my 9th grade youth leader at this church I went to. And Rob was like the first person, who's married to his wife, Becky, and he was the first person that really made me start to think, you know what, that's the kind of husband I want to be. When Eric and I were young and we were dating, we talked, if we ever get married, like that, like them. And he was this engaged parent, and I learned a lot about parenting. I learned a lot about just following Jesus and what it looks like to just have a normal person conversation with Jesus, which was one of the most refreshing things in my life as a freshman in high school. He doesn't use any weird words. It was so good for me, right? It was so good for me. But he's not famous. He managed a warehouse in Battle Creek for his whole career. He's not famous. None of you know him, right? But he's significant. There's a guy named Dennis, who some of you have met because Dennis has been here. And Dennis was the first person in my life when I was sitting in front of a council or board of people navigating this, whether or not if you're doing this thing of vocational ministry. And Dennis was the first person in my life to, after that session, he pulled me aside and just said, hey, I think there's something in you. I want to invest in your life. And he became this mentor to me. I did this internship with him. He ended up marrying Erica and I. He influenced how I think about spiritual leadership and following Jesus. And even today, he's still helping me navigate through issues of life and walking me through healing and freeing roads. 30-some years later. He's not like famous. A lot of people know, but he's not famous, but he's significant. He's significant. Rob and Dennis, they're two of a very, very, very small number of people that I still text every Father's Day. God just used them to fill huge father voids in my life. Significant. My friend named Paul, who my first full-time real post-school job, Paul and I were on the same team together, and I wasn't married yet. Eric and I weren't married yet, and Paul and I just became quick friends, and he was a little older than me, and he just began to invest. He just began to talk with me about continuing this walk with Jesus and what it looked like and how conversations with Jesus looked and how it was I was wired to utilize the gifts that God gave me. I didn't know at the time how significant it would be that he was also raising 3 girls. And I learned everything I could. I still call him. I called him this week, freaked out about something with one of our girls. Like, Paul, dear God, help, okay? It happens. No, he's not famous. He's lived in the same small town for 35 years. He's not famous, but he's significant. Because here's the deal. Significance, like really, significance, really. Let's boil it down. Significance, really, is doing what Jesus created you to do to move the life and work of Jesus forward in somebody else's life. That's significant. Significance really is just doing what Jesus created you to do to move the life and work of Jesus forward in somebody else's life. Which translates to multiple lives, which translates to communities, which translates to right. That's significance. Significance simply is you and me and us together doing what you were uniquely made by God to do, to move the life and work of Jesus forward in somebody else's life. And friends, that is essential. It's essential. It's an essential part of living an unstuck life. In fact, it's one of the final parts of getting unstuck. It's not something we do when we're fully unstuck. It is actually part of getting us unstuck. I want to just say something to you, and I'm saying this with a heart full of love for you and love for us. So please hear that. But if you are unwilling to give yourself away for the work of Jesus and the people around you, you are still stuck. You are. If you are unwilling to give yourself away for the sake of Jesus and his work and the people around you, you are still stuck. Which means there's more of Jesus for you to experience. There's more on the other side. You were created to be significant, to have a life that counts by moving the life and work of Jesus forward in people's life around you. In relational, loving, fun ways, but ways that only you can. Of course you're significant. It's why you have a significant calling. And of course you have a significant calling, because you're significant. My greatest concern in this whole series and in this whole journey, my greatest concern is that we would be consumed singularly with simply getting to a point where we feel better and some things around us are changing, which absolutely needs to happen. But that then we would stop there. And that we would think that was all. And then be so confused when we're still a little dissatisfied and we're still a little empty and we still feel a little stuck. You were just made to live this life that counts, and there's people around you that need it. There's people around you that need your life. This church needs your life. Our communities need your life. That's how great God is, that he would create you and create me to live that way. In order to do it, part of what we got to do is go back to where we started 7 weeks ago. When we started 7 weeks ago, all the way back at the beginning, and we just acknowledged we all live stuck at times, and we all do. Look, you're not the only person to ever be stuck. Every single person has been stuck. But here's the thing. When we started, we talked about this thing. We live trusting Jesus, not trying to please him or not trying to keep him pleased with us. And in order to start living that, we established this real firm foundation that influences everything else. And we've got to come back to it today. As we wrap this thing up, we got to come back to it. Where we started is where we end. And where we started was simply this acknowledgement of who Jesus already says we are, who the God of all creation has created us. Who does he actually say we are? Because we're not trying to become something else. We're trying to stay in step with who he says we are. He's the one who created us. It was his goodness, his love motivated the creation. So who did he say we are? And the story of God in scriptures is full of those things. But I just want to go back to 7 of them that we started the week with. Let me show you these 7. Just 7 simple statements that are true about you. If you're not a follower of Jesus, this is what God wants you to know as an experience. This is what God wants to live out with you. If you are a follower of Jesus, this is what's 100% can be your living experience right now. These statements. So here's what I'd love to do here in the room, and even those of you joining online, maybe from where you're from, by yourself or with a group of people or your family or whatever. Here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to just for us to just say these out loud together. Okay, we're just going to say these statements together. We won't say the reference at the end, but just these 7 statements. Let's say them together, and we'll just absorb them a little bit along the way. Okay, here we go. Let's start with the first one. Here we go. I am his child. I am his friend. I am complete in him. I cannot be separated from his love. I am born of God, and the evil one cannot touch me. I can approach him with freedom and confidence. I am. That's what we get to live. It all starts right there. We have a confidence to live a life saying, oh, that God made me significant, because those are true. Those are true. And a whole bunch of you are like trying to get pictures of that or whatever, and we'll just leave it there for a little bit so you can still get a picture, right? That's great. Do whatever it is to let this shape your soul, because it all starts and ends here. It all starts and ends here. If you're here in the room, I want to invite you to stand. I want to speak just some words of life over you. And when we're done in just a minute, my friend Tammy is going to be down here in the front. And maybe here's the thing, maybe if nobody's ever prayed a prayer of significance over you, just spoken some words of life of significance, why don't you just let her today? You don't even have to tell her your name, whatever. You can tell her whatever or nothing. But maybe just take that gift before you leave. Just of the one-on-one. I'll do it for us collectively, but just the one-on-one. Just absorb that. If you want to know something you can do before March 26th, March 13th, Discover Journey Lunch, and it's a low-pressure way to just start to hear, why is this such a big deal to us? Why are we so passionate about this? How does this line up with the heart of Jesus and who he's called us to be? Just come to lunch. Let's just share some lunch together. You can decide the next step after that, but I'd love to have lunch with you because it's a great chance to hear, man, this is what drives Journey, and this is how that fits into that. Let me just speak some words of life over you as Tammy comes. May you go today with the grace, the power of God to receive those truths about you, that you are his child, that you are loved by him, that you are guarded by him, that you are protected by him, that you were created on purpose and for a purpose, that your life is significant and it counts, that he has you firmly in his sights, that you are uniquely created to do the things on this earth that only you can do, that he so loved you that he would give his son to save you and restore you, to heal your past and unleash your future. The God of all creation is for you. He is on your side. And we together, you individually, are his witness. Your life's designed to be significant, to be a witness for his power and his love for the people around you. So church, in that confidence and that assurance, be sent in Jesus' name. Amen, everybody? Hey, I look forward to being with you next week. It's been a blast to navigate this series with you. Let Tammy just pray over you before you go, and then I'll see you in a friend next week.